Hey guys, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. This is Home to Inspire DIY and Decor. I am going to share a quick thrift store makeover for you. I found this set of baskets that's meant for storage, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a makeover using some transfers from Redesign, some paints, and drop cloth. I really think you will like this project, so stick around. And as always, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Let's get on with this project. So for the first step, I'm going to go ahead and give this a nice tint or a faint wash. This basket was a little on the brighter or white side, and I did want to make them look a little bit more rustic or aged, if you will. So I'm going to use some Waverly antique wax. All I did was dilute it with a lot of water just so that I can achieve more of a stain look. Now, if you needed to have darker spots or make your color look more richer, then definitely go light or easy on the water and just add more of a concentrated wax to your basket. But I did have to play around with the consistency, and I went back and forth adding wax as needed to darken up the areas. And if I felt like it was too dark, I just went back with some water and just brushed that over the dark wax and kept going on with the same process. And if I felt like it was too light, I went back with the dark wax, so on and so forth. So this is something that's definitely buildable, and you can play around with until you achieve that look or that depth of the color that you want. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat the steps, doing the same exact thing to all three baskets. Now this basket storage unit is all in one. It is held up by some canvas rope or some type of a hanging material in the back, and it is meant to be hung as one unit. So what I'm going to go ahead and do to these baskets is to make them look more French country and give it that nice French country flair. I really do favor that type of style, and I hope you guys enjoy the process and the outcome of how these end up turning out. I think they came out super cute, way better than they started. So I went ahead and sped up the drying process using my heat gun, and you can also use a hair dryer if you will. So the next step here, before I added any embellishments to the front of the baskets, is to add a liner to these baskets. Now this idea sort of came as an afterthought. I wasn't intending on adding any type of liner, but in the midst of me planning this DIY, I just came up with the idea. I did have some leftover drop cloth in my stash, so why not? I went ahead and just utilized these items that I already had. And all I did was just sort of measure out the space that I needed, or the amount of fabric I needed to fill the spaces. And I just did this really with no rhyme or reason. I didn't measure anything. I just eyeballed it just by placing the fabric inside, kind of making sure that I allowed enough allowance or give, because you are going to want to make sure that your fabric isn't laying super flat or taut against the baskets, because this is supposed to be more of like a looser, relaxed sort of liner inside. And this initial round here of me trying to add the fabric to create this liner to this very large basket here, it didn't go according to how I planned it in my head. So I did somewhere along the way have to remove the fabric from the basket, which, by the way, using hot glue is perfect for doing this, because hot glue is a lot more forgiving in terms of mistakes, because it's not necessarily like a permanent adhesive. So if you do mess up, and even if the glue dries, you are still able to pull the fabric away from the basket. So it worked in my favor in this instance. However, there are going to be times when it's a little bit harder to remove. So after I removed the fabric and I had to sort of do it over, I did have to make sure this time that I was going to loosen up or bunch up my fabric a little bit more and not pull it taut and then glue it that way, because at the end of it all, the fabric did not lay flat or lay nicely inside of the basket. So it all turned out well. In the end, it was a lesson for me to what not to do for the next two baskets. So when I had to repeat these same steps to the other two baskets, I made sure that I did exactly the opposite of what I did initially. So you live and you learn, and sometimes it's all trial and error when it comes to DIYing. And once everything was glued into place, I just went ahead and cut all of the strings and all the threads and everything that was visible or that was sort of, sticking out, and just trim off all of those rough edges. Now, I did contemplate if I wanted to possibly cover up the rough hem or the rough edges of the fabric. But, at the end of it all, I figured, it looks fine just the way it was. It has like that rugged old feel to it. So I wasn't really overly concerned with making this look super clean and pristine. So I left it as is. I went ahead and moved on to the second and third basket, and then I just repeated the same exact steps, only this time I was making sure that I glued the four corners first, and then I went on to glue the center parts of the fabric, just making sure that I sort of followed like a pleat fashion, if you will. Basically, what that means is like when you're gluing your fabric down onto the basket, I was essentially just leaving some extra fabric pieces to sort of not be, pulled, tight against the basket, and then sort of creating a pleat and then overlapping those pleats, and that sort of gives it like that nice tailored look, and at the same time it acts as a means of keeping your fabric loose and flowy. So I hope I'm not rambling. Hopefully this is all making sense to you guys, but it's really hard to describe sometimes the process when you really don't have words for it. So hopefully you kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about. But the rest was pretty much easy in terms of gluing all the fabric pieces into the baskets. So here are the transfers that I use. It's by Redesign. They have a variety of different French ephemeral type stuff, different phrases, designs, really nice. Perfect for this DIY. I went ahead and chose 3 different styles according to what I thought would look pleasing to the eyes. And what I did was I cut different size square pieces or rectangular pieces of the drop cloth, and all I did was cut a corner off, and then tore the rest of the way down just to get a frayed edge. And here I'm left with all the fringe, and all I did was just trim down all of the fringed areas to make them look a little bit more cleaner. I did this off camera because it was a little time consuming to get the size I needed for each of the transfers I used, since each of the transfers varied in sizes. Each of these pieces that I cut varied as well. Once I had all of my drop cloth pieces cut down to size and trimmed off, I went ahead and took this transfer. I'm just going to show you an example of how I did this one. I went ahead and did the other 2 off camera because, like I said, I wasn't really sure if it was going to transfer on well onto the drop cloth, so I did have to test it out. And it did work with a little bit of pressure and some elbow grease. So I decided to go ahead and proceed with this 3rd transfer. I just used a little stick that comes with the transfer pack, burnished that onto the fabric piece. It did transfer on pretty good, but you do have to push down a lot harder than you probably would onto like a different type of surface. Just make sure that when you burnish your transfers, you hold the transfer down securely. You can also use some tape if you wanted to hold it down in place, but there was really no need for it in this case. And when you are removing the transfer paper or the carrier sheet, you just want to make sure you do it in small steps to make sure that the transfer actually adheres to your fabric piece. And here's the finished look after everything was said and done. I think it looks amazing. It has a nice, clean and crisp look to it, and it transferred on really dark. Perfect for the look that I was trying to achieve. And that piece right there is going to be the one for the larger basket, since it is one of the larger transfers that I chose. I'm going to use a combination of tacky glue. This is Aleene's tacky glue. You can use any type of adhesive that you choose. But I'm going to also use some hot glue, just adding it to the corners just for that instant grip. And the tacky glue is just for more of a longer, long-lasting adhesion. So there it is. After everything was applied, I think it looks perfect. And I'm going to repeat the same steps with the rest of the baskets. So just go ahead and take a look at how I finish off the process. So that was it for this DIY. I think it came out adorable. I love how it looks in the bathroom. You can use it to store some bathroom supplies like toilet paper, rolled up towels, any toiletries that you may have. If you want to store any beauty products in there, you can. You can also use it more as a decorative piece by adding some florals or greenery. I think this would also be perfect for decorating for the holidays. You can add different seasonal stems in here or just decorative items. The sky's the limit with this project. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was super easy, as you can tell. And as always, I would appreciate a like, share my videos with anyone you think who might enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one.